people. It's like his superpower is just bringing people together. So
That is so cool. That's
I
great that he does
know.
it. That's a
And
very
he,
important skill that Nick has. So I'm glad he
yeah,
does that.
he restacked my article too about the WLFI. I just wrote. Everyone's telling me to send it to you, so I'll have to
I've
send it
read
to
it.
you.
I've read it already. So
Oh
I'm
yeah,
there. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a good one.
yeah.
I mean,
Thank you.
I agree with almost everything you're saying there, and it's a good analysis on uh, what Donald Trump did on 60 Minutes. I think is very accurate. So
Yeah.
it's a good read. Everyone should read it.
Hell yeah, man. I'll you restack it for me. That'd be huge.
I will. I will after we get off here because I'm gonna be.
Yeah. Yeah, don't do it right now. Stay
Yeah,
stay
I
fo
won't.
stay fo
I'm
we
not gonna
gotta stay
move.
focused. We gotta
I'm
stay focused.
focused. I'm focused on you, Shane. You got
All
all
right.
my attention.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Well, hello everybody. Everyone's getting here right now. Welcome to an exciting episode of Firebrands United. I feel like my guest roster just keeps getting better and better these days. And I'm here with Zev Shalev. And welcome to Firebrands United, Zev. It's so great to have you.
It's great to be here, Shane. I'm a fan, and I'm glad. I'm glad to be on for a good hour here with you. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a good one. And I was just telling Zev, I'm so excited that we have good news to talk about
Mhm.
today. Like it's been so long since I have uh, woken up and been like, wow, something good happened yesterday. And just this morning, Zev, I was in a live stream with Nick and Melissa Corrigan, and she was down in DC, and there's a sustained presence there in DC, something
Ah,
I know that you've spoken about quite a bit. And I'm like looking at that too, where you have, I believe it was Michael Fanone, the
oh
officer.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
She was giving a speech in DC, and she was there live, and but
Fantastic.
it's fantastic. It's fantastic, and the energy is absolutely rocking. I see in the videos of Mamdani like busting down with all of his people, at the after
Mhm.
party. Did you see his victory speech?
I did see his victory speech. I thought it was electric. I thought he did a great job, and I thought his taunt to Trump was fantastic. And was it turn
Yes.
the volume up? And I think he is the real deal, and you can tell he's the real deal. And in just in small ways and big ways, I think he's going to change the city in important ways. I lived in New York for a long time. It is the most expensive city you can possibly imagine living in. Maybe there's one or two others in the world that are more expensive, but it is really hard to make ends meet there and still have a normal job and still travel to your work and all these things. So he really recognizes that disparity, and boy, do we need someone like that. It's really very important that we have someone like that in the New York mayor's office.
Oh yeah. And I mean, he shows too. I think the most important thing is, I guess Hakeem Jeffries made some post. He's like, the Democratic Party is back. And I'm like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
People have voted that they want democratic socialism. That like record numbers. I think that they have an opportunity here. Will they take it? I have my doubts. I'm not going to be the person who's thrilled with the Democratic Party, but I think what he's offering them is a messaging shift that they could naturally back Mamdani, and they could say, you know what, actually, we're going to shift our policy to more support this what Mamdani's selling. We're gonna shift. They could organically do it just by changing their stance on Mamdani and endorsing that. They could make the change and distinguish. Most importantly, I think distinguish themselves enough from traditional Democrats to open up that void that has been constantly there from the butting of heads. Effectively, it's a rebrand opportunity. I mean, what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Look, I think Hakeem Jeffries is getting it wrong. I think he has a great potential future as a leader if he does shift his policy stance, but he won't because of his backers and because of the people who support him. Look, the original, the sin we've had in the last 40, 50 years of politics in America has been the birth and growth of identity politics, in that it's so overtaken over every aspect of our lives that we become basically racist. Basically we identify only with people's identity, and that's it, and we determine everything about you based on your identity, which of course is nonsense. What we need to be about is policies that are smart And the Democrats have such an easy win if they just work for the basic middle class and working class of America. It's like it's so obvious. It's why Biden, for all his faults, was able to win in 2020 was because he knew to speak to the working class. He knew what he was doing as well. He delivered policies that delivered to them. Now you might think many people don't like his presidency. I would thought he was an amazing president for the time, and just the kind of person we needed. Now, at the end, he might quibble with, but the reason he won is the same reason why Mamdani won. It's the same reason the Democrats can win if they invest in those kinds of policies. But the system is very corrupt on both sides.
Yes.
There are a lot of people who are pouring money into both parties that don't want to see this. I don't want to call it democratic socialism. I just feel like it's representative of the people. Like that's taxation without representation is not okay. You
Yeah.
need to have
Right.
representation, and if the people are the masses are telling you one thing and you're not representing them, well, of course you're not going to get in power. Of course you're going to be booted out. Yeah.
I have the election results, the numbers from NPR, and I just want to go through them with everybody here because I think also it's not like these were just small victories.
Yeah, it's across the board.
Across the board, Democrats won everything. And you looking at Virginia, 57.2% went for Spanberger. Almost all of the counties in Virginia flipped blue. I mean, it was a historic election. New Jersey, which was supposedly going to be very close based on polling, 56.2% of the vote for Mickey Sherrill. Okay, so not close at all.
That's almost like a landslide in New Jersey for the Dems. I mean, that's really impressive that she was able to get that number. And the same thing with Spanberger. And just what happened in Virginia is fascinating because you've got these are the people who work in the government. These are the people who are currently in the midst of a shutdown. These are people who are getting furloughed. They sent a message to Donald Trump that was very clear, and I think he got that message this morning in his remarks this morning.
Yeah. And they've been kind of quiet. I haven't heard anything yet. I don't know if you saw any remarks, but I think in general afterwards, I think that I would have expected more of
From Trump?
outlash from Trump and MAGA, but I think they're even a little stunned themselves.
He said this morning that he was going to he wanted to meet with Democrats and Republicans and senators about reopening the government. He says last night's loss was about the government being shut down, and he believed that was the reason. And partially probably was the reason, but not entirely. But nevertheless, it seems like he wants to open the government immediately, is what he said. Which maybe that's not accurate, but I think that's what I heard him say on the way in here. But I'll double check that while we're talking, so I don't give anyone wrong information. But I think that's what the president is at. I think he's really realized that the world that he's created is rejecting him, and he's got to find another path out of here. It says, Trump urges GOP senators to scrap filibuster. This is filibuster talk, but maybe he didn't. So he said, breaking, President Trump just told every Republican senator to their faces they must end the filibuster again. So maybe it was just the filibuster that he was talking about. Maybe I misunderstood him, but should we listen to what he said? Let's keep going, and then if I find
while you're looking for that, Zohar Mamdani took 50% of the vote in New York. 0.03 million votes in his favor. Historic election also in New York as far as turnout. Ridiculous.
2 million.
That's so many. Prop 50, they called it in the morning just based on mail-in alone. You have 5.15 million votes that were in favor of Prop 50, just short of 3 million for against. I, as a Californian, I voted for Prop 50. I'm exceptionally proud that I was able to cast my ballot for democracy. That's something that I will always be proud that I was able to participate in that vote. And things like that. So just like
it's an historic vote. I mean, the fact that they were able to do what they did with the turnout for a you know, a proposition that is kind of difficult to explain, even on the face of it. You have to like sort of explain what it is. And they've been going on this for like 2 months, and they got that turnout on something that was very, technical in some ways, but also not something that really fires you up. It means that Americans and especially Californians have got a sense of what's at stake here. They showed up for the right reasons because they know how important this is, and that must be frightening Donald Trump the most. Is this notion that Americans actually can see him for what he is.
Yeah.
Americans know what it's knows what know what Americans know what's at stake, and they are going to show up in even greater numbers next year. I mean, this was almost like a presidential turnout in California for this proposition.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what I think is also interesting to piggyback off that is that what you also see is, and this is something I talked about with the opinionated ogre. We did a show like a week ago or last week, and we were talking about how if they're going to try and steal an election, it needs to be plausible. There needs to be plausibility that that is the outcome, right? What I think this does that's significant is it is no longer in any way plausible based on what we just saw for them to pull out some sort of landslide victory through manipulation. If you
Yeah,
know,
gerrymandering is not going to help them. I think we're going to see other states
yes,
follow
that's so
suit,
true.
and it's just, Shane, this was their last gasp. I mean, they're going to try this emergency, this election emergency they're trying to rig right now. I don't think it's going to work, and
Mhm.
and this is the reason Donald Trump looks so completely terrified this morning, is because he knows that they've run out of options. And not only that, the Supreme Court hearing today about
Yes,
tariffs did not go well for the president. I think almost unanimously you can say that. If his entire agenda is falling apart in front of him, and he knows that he can't win now in the midterms, and that's a real challenge.
yeah, and the 36-day shutdown, he now owns the two longest shutdowns in government history.
Mhm.
He owns the record for least popular president in the first year. He owns the record for being the worst in everything. And he has continually, I think, the government shutdown. There's a reason it's not open. The Epstein files, they like that was there. I think there's multiple things. I think that Project 2025 did call for some form of government shutdown to allow for a lot of the things they're trying to execute. But I also think that the hype around the Epstein files was really only subdued until they shut down the government and nothing could be done about it. But the second the government opens up and they swear in
Grivaldi, I
Gravala,
think.
Gravala,
I got the
I
name wrong.
I forget her name every time. I feel terrible about it. And Alita, but anyway, when they swear her in and the votes come in, and you have such an interesting, shift going on. Someone in the chat will have it in about 2 seconds.
Mhm.
Gravala, yeah, yeah, Gravala. Okay. Uh, But once she gets sworn in, and like you have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's just like gone on like this bender. Like I don't know what she's doing, but
What she's
she's
smoking.
going to read all of the Epstein victims on the Congress floor. I think that there is a certain. Yeah, I think he's lost. I think they lost the narrative back in LA. They started to lose the narrative in LA.
Mm.
And I think it's been a just straight down from then because they failed to prove that we are violent and we are uprising and we are rioting. And then Portland really hammered that home, where you have these inflatable frog costumes, dancing
Yeah, that
around.
was really good. That was good protest. Look, these guys are flailing, and that's why they're trying to push everything so quickly. There's been this urgency to their authoritarianism, which has been kind of bizarre, because everyone's looking at them saying, "Why are you doing this so quickly?" If you wanted to achieve authoritarianism, you would do it a little bit more slowly. Compared, we've done a lot of analysis comparing American authoritarianism to other, democratic blacks backsliding, and a lot of other countries take a lot longer to implement what this government has done because they've been unable to let anything stick. So all they've been doing is is gaslighting everyone every day with something new, but nothing's really sticking. And the more they do it, the more it's apparent it's becoming that they are trying to do something, is malign, that's opposed to the interests of Americans. And I think, when you look at the crypto, and you've written about this, the cryptocurrency naked corruption, this nepotism,
Crazy.
this
It's
insanity that the Trump
crazy.
family is busy, not only just lining their pockets, they are filling their pockets. They're filling everything they can with billions and billions of dollars of foreign bribes and
From the
corruption.
Gulf. It's
Yeah,
there's so much attention that has been paid by them to the Gulf, specifically Witkoff and like you said with crypto WLFI, like I was shocked that they allowed that question on the interview. I was stunned. Um
I am
and
too, considering the new leadership at CBS, but they obviously wanted to prove that they are somehow, uh, you know, maybe they're trying to prove that they're more balanced than they're really intending to be. It was horrific, that interview, by the way. I thought Nora O'Donnell, as good as she is, did the best, but the fact that they let him get away with lie after lie after lie is nonsense. The one thing I think he was telling the truth about, though, was, as you pointed out in your great piece, is CZ. I think he hated answering that question. I think it's obvious to everybody what's going on with cryptocurrency. It's the biggest, sellout of the American people you can imagine. And he's not even selling out the American people for a lot of money. It's a lot of money for him, $10 billion, but that's what he's willing to sell America out for, is $10 billion. Like, I mean, it's appalling. And I think people are beginning to wake up to what he's doing, because it certainly doesn't appear like anyone voted. I didn't some area. I think Republicans won anything yesterday. It was
no, that's what I was they literally got wiped. They
yeah.
got wiped. And that's huge. Like, and I think that like, that's positive. And the important thing though is the momentum. And also we're going to see them lash out more. That's what I think is really important to highlight here, is the reaction to this is going to be really probably quite awful. From ICE and from them, I think they're going to try and escalate again. I think it's very interesting. You mentioned the SCOTUS hearing on the tariffs.
Mhm.
How is SCOTUS going to rule after this? Based on the referendum they just got from America, what direction are they going to go? I
It
think that's
seemed
something to
from
watch.
the questions that they were asking in the arguments today, it felt to me like they were almost unanimously, and maybe one or two of them were quiet, but that they were just so dumbfounded by this attempt to tariff all the countries at one time that it made no sense. And the core argument they kept going back to was that the right to tax people is inherent in the Congress. It's not something the president can get, and yet they're saying this is a tax, and clearly it is. And the president isn't allowed to have that power. Like, he's not allowed to have, war powers. He's not allowed to do all sorts of things, because we have a balanced system here. So everything he's proposing in that argument is treasonous. Really, it's counter to the Constitution if we allow him to do that. And the justices know that they can't let him do that. So I think his tariff policy is going to disintegrate, and with it, his entire economic agenda, which involves basically replacing the US dollar with cryptocurrency. I think
Stable
that's going to
coin.
suffer a lot. Yeah, I mean, did crypto crash yesterday? There was a big correction yesterday. I saw. Was there a big loss yesterday? Maybe it was the day before, but crypto's been having a wild ride, um, and I think it's related to this, to their policy and what their plans are becoming so obvious to people, that they really are trying to destroy America.
Yeah. And I mean, so I don't know if you saw yesterday, I talked about I was talking about a Reuters article, and it was about the P to E for all the stocks in the market right now, and how it's like 23.1 right now. It's like it's 1.3 less than before the 2000 bubble popped, the
Yeah,
dot-com bubble popped.
yeah, we really are
Um,
there.
so, I think that's interesting because, you know, that's what it's price to earnings. I always like ingest all of this information, and then it's like stuck in my head. But yeah, so price to earnings, right? And you see it at this high. And if you look at the graph, like there's a graph that I pulled up, and it's like you can literally see the pattern. And you have these banks, even Jamie Dimon coming out and saying, that there's concern about this AI bubble. And we've seen a lot of pain on the front of the labor market. That's it's a very visible part for most Americans. However, the correction that would come from this bubble, I think it's hard really even to quantify, because we haven't ever seen inflation like this. Like they're reporting, I think the number I saw this morning was, I have this article. So 3.8, I believe, is what the growth of the U.S. economy at the annualized rate at the second quarter. But if you look at inflation being at like 2.9,
you're not really making any
you're not
progress.
really, there's no progress.
Look, I wrote about this the other day. There's this really, thing. This repo market is this market, basically the overnight rate that allows banks to borrow if they're short on money. And that had a really scary report last week where they were investing their mortgage-backed securities or putting up their mortgage-backed securities as collateral for these overnight loans. This is an indicator to some that there is real problems coming. There are other people there. The other problem that may be happening is the ratio between buyers and sellers in the real estate market is so wide. It's the widest it's ever been, which means, again, like 2008, like these other times we've had these bubbles, something is about to happen where, if the mortgage market crashes, and it's very likely, if people start to go into foreclosure mode again, like we did in 2008, I mean, then all bets are off. The entire thing sort of becomes, the economy just collapses. It can't work. The credit market seizes. The banks can't borrow from each other. We know exactly what happened in 2008. But it's interesting you're mentioning people like Jamie Dimon and Jeffrey Epstein, because later today I'm publishing the first bit of the new Greatest Heist series. This is Greatest Heist 2, which really looks at how I believe this wasn't an accident that 2008 happened, that crash was engineered to happen by Jeffrey Epstein and Jamie Dimon, amongst other people.
Wow.
And I've got the evidence to prove that in this book. And we're seeing the same thing happen again right now. We're seeing an attempt, at least, to crash the market, to over leverage everything, to bring it down in order to destroy the US dollar, and to see ultimately the rise of cryptocurrency, which is why, crypto is like this big paycheck for Donald Trump at the end of his mission, if he achieves it. But, he looks like he won't actually get there, but maybe he will. But the reality of it is crypto is his paycheck. And that's why he doesn't care about absolutely anything else. He wants everyone to suffer. He wants the U.S. economy to tank. He wants the U.S. dollar to tank. And so within all of that, he'll get, if he achieves all of that, he gets his paycheck. But it's not happening. And I think that's the thing that it's becoming apparent to him, because everyone can see this plan. It's the same plan as 2008. It's just happening again.
It's interesting too, because this is my thought with crypto. This great scam is, right, they've been putting all this money in crypto. Effectively, it's a shadow economy that exists outside of the US market, where you have all this money. And my thought is, with this crash, is it's basically a rainy day fund for when everything crashes, and they can come in and buy with all of the crypto that they've stashed away. They come in and they purchase all of these things. To me, I mean, that makes sense. That's the method, right? Is you find a way to get money out of the economy so it's less affected during the crash, so you can bring that money back in to purchase more of, a market share, whatever that market is. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
My thought is, you look at Argentina, which is really what they're trying to emulate here, and that's why they went in with their $40 billion package to Argentina. In Argentina, the regular currency got useless. It became useless. It became so, it went through so many ups and downs that it's become just impossible to use it for anything as a benchmark. What people have gone to instead is US dollar stable coins. That is what they have put their money in, and it's created an economy now that lives off crypto, and there's a lot of investment by the crypto companies. Even Tether's buying up a lot of companies over there. They're trying to move the entire economy into crypto. That is what I think they're trying to do in America by firstly creating the funds, the treasury.
Crypto
reserve. Yeah, exactly. That thing is designed to shore up crypto. At the same time, crypto buys a lot of treasury in order to keep the price of, to have enough US dollars to pay. Every crypto company who has crypto needs, it was in a stable coin, has to have an equivalent amount in US dollars or assets available. So they tend to buy treasury. So what we're seeing is the treasury market is buoyant or doing quite well, considering crypto's in there, keeping it in stable. The stock market is up because cryptocurrency is now allowed to be invested into exchange traded funds. So you've got, the stock
Really?
market climb, yeah, which is a really interesting thing. It just started this year. So you've got this like hyper ventilating economy with that is being blown up by crypto. And
Yeah.
yet, when it all collapses, when the tariffs come home to roost and the inflation that the tariffs will bring hit Americans, and we all realize that, we're paying so much more, we can't afford our lives, not to mention a real estate crisis where we lose our homes, then there'll be no way to turn because the economy is going to crash because of the US dollar crashing. People are going to turn to crypto, believe it or not, as a safe haven. This is what their plan is, to turn the stable coin into the safe haven that used to be gold. Now, that is a nightmare because the crypto is held by about a handful of people. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but it's held by a limited number of people
Yeah.
who are going to become the land barons, the oligarchs, the aristocracy of America, because they are the ones who own it. The rest of us who climbed in later or are trying to buy it now, that's going to be a nightmare for us. We may not make money back. But those guys who first invested, they're going to make a killing, and they're going to make a killing of American jobs and of American homes, and then they're going to use the crypto to come in, what you're saying, and buy all the stuff that they helped crash, and they're going to try buy it all at ridiculously low costs. They're going to buy up all the mortgages. They're going to buy up the homes. Home ownership will be an American, what will be a dream that you can never achieve
It's
in
the rent for
America.
life.
It is rent for life. Yeah, it's exactly
Yeah.
what they want to do. They don't want you owning anything. They don't want you voting on anything. They're going to basically take over, make crypto the functioning part of our democracy. So you want to vote? Well, you have to have a certain number of tokens. You want government services? Well, where are your tokens? It's going to become a very different system under sort of Peter Thiel's and Yarvik's view of the future. We can't let that happen. Obviously, I mean, people can't let that. We can't let America become that at all.
No.
And that's, I think, the president's realizing his plan and his enablers from Peter Thiel and all these others are realizing that it's not going to happen. And I hope so. I hope they're realizing it.
I think you're right. It isn't going to happen, and like I believe that they will probably crash the economy. I do believe that they will accomplish that much. What I don't believe is that they will succeed in the manner they think. One of the big things we're seeing with the AI bubble is that AI tech just hit a wall. It really did. They really hit a wall with AI. I think that the market is now shrinking for AI. Like a lot of these companies, everyone went and then bought AI, and consumers are just like, like it's not. It is prevalent, but not. It's not making them the money they thought they were going to make, especially as the cost of all these data centers and everything comes in, as well as the fact that they just put too much money into something that, it's this idea that they've spent so long throwing, billions of dollars at something, and that alone will force development through funding. But
You
there's
can't
a
just build data centers. The Biden policy on AI, I thought was really inspired. You got to do more than build data centers. You got to train people. You got to give people the tools. AI could be the most liberating economic fuel for all of America if people knew what to do with it. And you've got a group of the data center owners are just there for the money. They're just there to mine your content and your data. But it could be a force for capitalism that we've never seen before. It's so easy to use AI. I can use AI on a level that I never thought possible, that I can actually code using AI, that I can build things and it works. If I can do it, anyone can. It just requires people to know to get the tools and to get access to it. And I don't think America's busy doing. Biden was pushing that agenda. Was going to build an entire ecosystem, which I thought was really smart. Where they were going to train people, they were going to give people AI as part of their school curriculum. They were going to create markets that could invest in people's businesses. So if you create an AI business, then that market could fund you. There was, and so they were going to build these ecosystems that allowed for AI businesses to grow. And if we can do that, we will have a miracle economy, because America's instincts to be open and free and more open source is what differentiates what our AI industry can do from what the Chinese AI industry can do, because they're so dictatorial and so top down in the way they're thinking. We can change all of that if we invested in AI literacy and gave people the tools to build their businesses.
Yeah, it's true, because that's something I've talked about with Nick, is that AI actually provides probably the best shot we have at a well-regulated government, because AI tools used in oversight mixed with a nonpartisan um, institution within our government that oversees all three other branches, pair that with AI, and you have a system in which you can remove human bias from these things. Imagine an AI that scrapes the stock market for, the SEC, right? That is constantly catching trades, because that's the kind of stuff AI is good at, is those kind of things. As a tool, as a person who researches, AI is an indispensable tool for accumulating information really quickly. Now, you have to vet that information. You need to check that information, but it is a great tool to get access to large amounts of information quickly. And it can do the same thing in a regulatory capacity, because I'm a long champion, and I've always said this, as long as I've been on the internet, is that if you want to properly govern people, you need to predict our own failures as people and understand that we will be corrupt if we're allowed to be corrupt. AI presents the opportunity to put a non-human limitation on human action. So it removes the opportunity for that kind of blatant corruption. And one of the things, as we revisit the weaknesses of a constitution that has been needed to be updated for hundreds of years, we have an opportunity to learn from our mistakes and to leverage AI in a positive light, and not as
I
a
agree with you.
oppressive AI surveillance machine, but as a internal oversight mechanism to prevent corruption. And, AI is not going to hurt the job market the way that people think it is, because it's not, like I said, they're not there. They didn't get where they wanted to be. It can do
I mean,
things,
it's
but
going to have an impact on the job market. It just is. You can see it already. But it's all robotics. It's all these other things. But it could also have a positive influence on the job market, because it can create so many jobs.
right.
It can create businesses that we didn't even know existed. It can create opportunities that no one even thought about for people. I think if you're a young person with some time to spare, if you're not spending time on AI, learning how to make it work for you and learning how to build little micro businesses out of it, you're not taking advantage of probably the biggest money making opportunity in the history of humanity. It really is. Now is the time for everybody to use it. But I agree with everything you're saying about the change in AI. If it can be, AI is a tool. It can be used for bad things. It
Hmm.
could be used for evil intent. It could also be used for great things. And I think the AI that America builds versus the AI that China has built is the difference in who we are as a people. America is free. We are open source. We can create more than just oversight. We can facilitate democracy through AI. We can do things that we've never even thought of that would make the Chinese and the Russians, die if they try to do it. But we can do it in America. We can make our entire future be a democratically successful future that is both growth oriented and protects freedoms. We can do all that with AI if we do it in the right way, and that's where the opportunity lies. So, yeah, I don't think that AI is overblown. I think there'll be a bubble now because the first phase of AI is sort of is out, and it's not been quite as buoyant. I think what will happen is it'll crash. That'll give the same people who are trying to buy up the market in real estate a way to consolidate all those assets. They're going to suddenly say, there'll be less AI companies, there'll be less data centers, and all owned by smaller and smaller companies. I think we have to really, smaller number of companies, we really have to watch for the monopolization of AI. I think that needs to be
I
one of
think
the
it's
key
already
factors.
there. I
Yeah,
think it's
these
already
are
there. I
true.
think you have an AI trust, right? I think you have I think you have Google. I think you have Amazon, and I think you have Palantir and those other kind of teal. You have the teal founders fund closed loop of his
Yeah.
businesses, right? So, but I think it's there. I think that the bubble itself, like to your point, that it could be a lot of things. They could be pumping it on purpose,
Hmm.
knowing that it is an opportunity for them to basically blow this thing up,
That's what they
and come
do.
in. But the tech, like the whole thing about all of this is that knowledge is not, proprietary in the sense of like, yeah, a company can say they own AI, whatever, but a company can always hire a data engineer who knows how to do the work and start their own AI. So there's no reason that a company can maintain and has to maintain dominance over these things. The other big issue with AI is the impact it's going to have environmentally. The rate at which these companies are buying up natural gas
Hmm.
um, infrastructure to power their data centers is crazy. I mean, people in my
Yeah.
family, they work in this industry. Okay. They work in the sales and the facilitation. And the rate at which actually Native American tribes, they were building clean energy on all of the reservations because the subsidies and whatnot from the Biden administration.
Yeah.
But now they've all shifted to natural gas.
Here's
And
the thing
that
about all of that can change. I know what you're saying, but all
exactly,
of that can change. Like we have, there are new ways to create energy. There's some news out of China today that they've come up with a new way to create nuclear energy.
yeah,
There is so many, there are advancements that can happen both in
yes,
energy production, but also in AI. We've seen what happened when was it what is deep something, whatever it was, the Chinese came up with it, which had a
oh,
different way of processing AI, much less expensive. Though all of this will evolve, I don't think those are nightmare scenarios that are, that we are that we'll just head into and reach a sort of apocalypse around. I think we can solve those problems. Those are solvable problems, and maybe AI can help us solve them. I hope so, because it would be a real shame if this incredible technology also landed up costing us the environment. I mean, that would be a disaster, obviously.
yeah, and I think that that's one of the important things that I think we have to talk about with urgency because I believe that humanity, we perform best with our back to the wall. So I
Yeah.
do think that we are capable of solving this crisis. But like to your point, solar is actually the cheapest form of energy production now. It's gotten so efficient because it was the first form of clean energy. It's actually very cost effective. But of course, the reason they're doing all this natural gas is because Trump and the oligarchy, they have backers, specifically with big oil, and they want natural gas in these things because it makes them money. So they'd rather do X, Y, and Z. But it is important to note that like we are playing with the window because there are a lot of things the scientists are very clear, specifically regarding the AMOC, which is the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Current. It's what moves heat around our planet.
Yeah.
It's in a bad spot because of this natural gas, and there's all
Oh.
kinds of cascade effects. One of them being the polar ice melt. Well, ice is very good at grabbing and capturing um, greenhouse gases.
Mm.
So what you have is a cascade event where the more the global temperature increases, the more ice melt, you actually release all of the greenhouse gases from the Industrial Revolution, which was
Mm. A
so
lot.
so that's a lot. So
Yeah.
it's like we gotta do your point. The tech AI doesn't care how the power is made, and we have so many people that want to build out that industry that will make so many jobs and give so much opportunity and rebuild the economy. It is infrastructure and energy is the tool to revamp America, to provide opportunity for jobs, to do these things. Going clean and sustainable provides an opportunity for an economy with specialty workers that we haven't seen in 100 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I totally agree. Look, I also am a fan of nuclear. I know a lot of people aren't a fan of
Yes,
nuclear, but I think done well, why not?
absolutely.
It's got a huge potential. It's very effective, and whatever they come up next in nuclear is going to be even more effective. So I just think that there's and the energy problems can be solved. One of the biggest things that America can do to solve its energy problems is drop the tariffs on Canada. I mean, Canada is a huge energy provider of, everyone's complaining about their power bills being so high right now in the United States. Well, you drop the tariffs. I mean, that's one of the reasons these things are so high is they have, reciprocal tariffs.
Yeah. Yep. And the tariffs are, it's self-inflicted pain. I think a lot of the tariffs too are just Trump. Like, I think there's a certain degree of it where it's like he goes back and forth. Like, I don't think he talks to people always before he says something. Like when he says, I'm going to put 100% tariff on China, I think it's very possible that he was just like, oh, China said some shit, boom, 100% tariffs, right? Like, but there's also the flip side of like, there is a large amount of intent, and it's hard to discern because of how crazy he is, how much direction is how much of this is coming out of him just being in a cognitive decline and not knowing,
Do you see that you put
and
a
then how
new?
much influence.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Did you see that I put a sign outside the Oval Office saying the Oval Office, in like put up a lettering outside the door, and maybe that's just them making improvements to the White House, or maybe the guy is so cognitively deficient right now that he actually needs to be reminded where the office is. It's the kind of thing they do in mental hospitals, or sorry, mental is not the right word, but in psychiatric hospitals to help people who might have dementia or anything like that to find their way to find where they're going, is to put up
Right.
these signs. I think he's not well. Obviously, he's not.
Yeah.
He's, as you pointed out in your piece the other day. He sometimes says things like his instincts are to tell you the truth. In that 60-minute interview, was so right about that. He did land up saying the truth about CZ, and I think that's true. I think the first thing he says is kind of truthful, and then he tries to back it up or cover it up or dance around it, and that's a sign of dementia too, I think.
Yeah, he's forgetting that like he's in this lie, and like the whole point is, it's like the way he responds to that line of questioning. Like what gets me is, "Are you ready?" I don't know who he is. It's
What was that?
like
What was that
what?
weirdness? Why are you saying, "Are you ready"? Like,
Because he's like excited, because I feel like he spent his whole life deflecting. Like earlier in the presidency, when he first took office, he used to do this thing he would say when he was his business. Well, I don't know, you're gonna have to talk to the DOJ. I don't know, you're gonna
yeah.
have to talk to the FBI, right? Like that was his strategy always, is don't own anything, don't touch it, push it to the side. He did the same thing with his sons. He said,
Mhm.
I'm not about that. I just let my kids do it because they know what's up, which is that's the truth in it, is he's not dictating decisions. He's
But he knows that he owns the company. He knows he owns that company. He knows that his
yeah,
family is making huge amounts of money of those crypto efforts that they're doing, or he wouldn't be in it.
exactly. And he's on the board. Like there's no they put his name on there, like it's a co-founder emeritus, sure, but like the pardons come, from him, the business, it all comes from him. And it's like,
Well,
it's very interesting to see. And I think specifically in regards to that, how it's just they've just kind of left it open. Like they didn't hide it, which is crazy to me, because I feel like there's prosecutorial options when you have such blatant paper trail trackable corruption right in front of you.
I was really impressed with your article when you pointed out the obvious. They've got Witkoff's son and Eric and Donald was it Dubai or UAE earlier
Yeah.
this year in that 2049 conference or whatever it was called, hanging out with CZ, and then now he's got pardoned. I mean, you don't have to look very far to find the corruption. It's sort of right there in front of your eyes. And just because the president says that his kids are arm's length, well, why is he promoting his kids' books today? And why is he always talking about his cryptocurrency? Like, why is he so pro crypto if this is just a business that he has no interest in? It's obviously related to his policy, because he wants to make America this crypto paradise, whatever he's trying to build here. That is not make it feel like he's not involved. It makes it feel like he's very involved.
Yeah. It needs his blessing. I think the way I'm starting to view things, and this is my personal theory, is that Trump, as this has gone on and his cognitive decline has become more evident, you've seen players around him assert a more dominant role in terms of what execution is, kind of similar to Adolf Hitler with Himmler. As Hitler declined in terms of his, I believe he had some form of, some cognitive regression with the meth and everything else. But Himmler took more and more control, and his ultimate goal was to supplant Hitler. And so you see, I think, a similar situation when you have a figure who's in power, who is a cult of personality. The people themselves couldn't maintain that role. But as they decline, for example, I think Stephen Miller in his position dictates a tremendous amount of what's actually happening, specifically with ICE in Venezuela as well, because he is the mouthpiece of presidential policy. And you hear him, even in that particular bit of the interview, he's regurgitating talking points. I was told that it was a Biden witch hunt. I was told this. I was told that it was the right thing to do and that he was innocent. So what he's confirming there for us is that he does what he's told. He trusts implicitly, and all he needs to hear to get the green light is, it'll make you money. It'll make us $500 million, Dad. This is why you should pardon him. Don't worry about it. We got it. Stephen Miller is like, oh, well, this is what's happening in Venezuela. We need to move the USS Gerald R. Ford away from Europe, where it's the only carrier group in Europe. As tensions are escalating with Russia and NATO, we're going to move our most advanced carrier group to the Caribbean, where there's no active threat. These are the kind of things where I think that it's showing that people in these positions are assuming more and more control and more power, which is contributing to the lack of cohesive messaging and just overall success, is because you have different parties within an autocracy ultimately struggling for power. And you see this with the Teal clan and all of them. They have their own goals. And it's I don't know. What are your thoughts on those ideas?
Look, I think that that he does have an enormous amount of power. I think Trump likes to be told what to do, and I think he likes to go out there and just do the show. He's a showman more than he is anything else. But who the hell is Stephen Miller, and why is he the most powerful person in America? Like, how did we get from this guy who has really questionable ideas about immigration, about race, seems to be reading out of the Third Reich handbook all the time. How did we get to the point where he's acceptable as a deputy chief of staff in the White House, and how does he get so much power? And I think the answer to that is the people who installed Donald Trump never really wanted Donald Trump to be an executive president. They wanted him to be, a show person, a figurehead, and then everybody around him he's getting orders from other people. And I think we can see it in the policies. Look, they always intended to go to war with Venezuela. That was always the intention. But, everything they're doing, they're executing the playbook, but it's a playbook that's not working because we can see it for the first time. We can see, maybe it's social media that's different. But in the past, when they've tried to do dictatorial takeovers, they've succeeded much more effectively because they didn't have social media, maybe. I don't know. Something's different about this attempt that we can all sort of see. This, the emperor, and we can also tell he's completely naked and he's, wandering around acting like an idiot. And we can see all that, and that's why they got the votes that he did yesterday. So, his people around him can keep trying to put him in positions where he looks authoritative, and he looks like he knows what he's doing. But in reality, the whole thing is kind of falling apart.
Yeah, I think it falls apart the more he does. Telling Americans that you're not getting your SNAP until the Democrats capitulate and take away your health care. It's one of those things where I think they've gotten comfortable. I think they get comfortable, and they also, were never good at it. They were never good at what they were doing. That's the whole thing with cronyism, is you replace people that are competent with loyalists, and loyalists are rarely competent. So, it's very It's very obvious. And I think one of the things that we'll notice as we come out of this is all of the things that the government was doing, despite our displeasure, that they just stopped doing. In regards to drug apprehensions, like they claim they're attacking the cartels for drugs. I guarantee you all the actual amount of drugs coming into the country and all of the work that was done, like they dissolved the like criminal organized drug tracking task force or whatever.
The organized crime units, I think, in the
Yes,
DOJ.
they just dissolved it. But you're claiming you want to take down the cartels, but you're dissolving the experts who do that like for a living. Like these guys are and you're taking all these people off important tasks and sending them out to, grab innocent American citizens or people of brown color.
Yeah, I mean, that's their entire philosophy has been to take people out of their active investigations, which of course they don't want because they don't want people investigating them. I mean, the problem why they moved so many FBI agents off the job is there's so much criminality coming out of this administration and related people that they needed to send them out to do the ICE immigration stuff because this administration is so corrupt, it's so nakedly corrupt that you can see it's going to take FBI investigators decades to get through it all. There's so much to be investigated from what is happening right now. And so this is just self-preservation on their part. Obviously, they're not after the drugs in those, the Portuguese, by the way, did actually apprehend a submarine that was filled with narcotics. And they were able to actually do that without blowing the thing up and not killing everyone on board. I'm not even sure there were people on board. It might have been remote controlled. This thing did come out of Venezuela, but it's also true that most of the drugs that come to Europe are coming from Venezuela. The drugs that come to America are coming from somewhere else. And so they might be going after narco countries or whatever, but they're going after the wrong ones, not the ones bringing in the drugs into America.
Yeah, and I mean, like I read an article by, one of my, other hosts on one of my other shows, Arturo Dominguez, and he was talking about how the CIA has such deep ties to American drug traffickers, drug cartels, all of these things. Like, like there is such a obvious conflict of interest, especially with South America and this kind of imperialism, this soft imperialism that the United States has exerted over the entire continent, all the way back,
he's a mobster, Donald Trump is a mobster. Sorry,
yeah.
But yeah, guess what the mob does really well? He does drugs really well. It's their core business, he's well aware of the fact that he's makes money off narcotics and he's has for his entire career as a mobster. So, he's not really trying to stop any drug running. Shane, you're not going to tell you your story about the crypto, about the WLFI is really impressive, and I hope everyone gets a chance to read it because it's one of those things that really explores what the Trump 60 Minutes moment was like about CZ and how you deconstructed really intelligently, and then on top of that, you really provide clear evidence of where this crypto corruption is so blatantly obvious that you can see it in this administration everywhere. And so I applaud you for that article. And I just want to make sure that everyone who's watching from the narrative side checks it out. I'll post it after the show, but
thank you, man.
Shane is most worthy of a follow, of course, and also a subscription, definitely a paid subscription. And once you guys read his take on the crypto corruption, I think you'll agree that, you come across like an anarchist, but you're not really an anarchist. Are you?
No, like I don't it's funny because it's like, but I feel like you're painted like it's like I even have this like doubt. I've had it my whole life. Like, am I like society wants to paint me as an anarchist? I just want transparency and truth. Like, if something is corrupt, blatantly corrupt, but it's anti-capitalist, then you're an anarchist. Like, but that's not true. Like, and there's another article, if you guys get a chance to read it, that I wrote about Palantir. And AI consolidation within the Pentagon because Doge just started working on expediting drone acquisition. And I lay out exactly how Peter Thiel has created a funnel for
that was a good piece.
all of that, right? Like
Mm.
it's you sound like the idea when you write about these things, they're so absurd. It sounds so conspiratorial and well planned out. It's like, oh, like this guy must be like here trying to tear down the system. And it's like, to be honest, the way I get to these truths is just by asking who benefits, who
Mm.
benefits, and then you ask the next question. And they don't believe that we as Americans are going to follow up on that second question, and that's where we need to prove them wrong. Is that we're going to look past the first answer, because there's no way you could argue that the company WLFI was taken over from the original two owners, and now all 7 additional co-founders are either a Trump or a Witkoff.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
it's pretty obvious. You don't have to look very far to figure it out.
no.
But you've done a great job putting it together. And that drone story is also really important for everyone to know. This is Palantir basically taking over the future of our war making ability or defense abilities. Is, drones are the future, and Palantir's, and Doge are basically taking over the independent military that we're supposed to have. I'm glad you're not an anarchist, because you make so much sense, and I think it's so important that we have um, people like you out there. It's very impressive. Your knowledge is so good, and your range of topics is so vast, and yet you're able to get at the real truth for so many of these important articles. And I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, and I hope you keep doing it, because America needs voices like yours. America needs thinkers like you who are thinking from the outside looking in about how they can change the corruption that exists. There's a big corruption problem in America. There's
Yeah.
no doubt about it. It exists on both sides of the aisle. It's horrible what's going on. We should not have whatever $38 trillion in debt right now. This is a travesty, and it's happened because of corruption. And it's really important that guys like you are out there all the time, exposing and telling the truth and fighting the good fight for it. So good on you for doing that.
Thanks, Dev. I mean, that means a lot, man. It's like I get better every time. Every article I write, I'm getting better, and it's like we learn as we study these guys, because it's a case study. You're studying. It's almost like a criminal profiler, right? You're studying the oligarch. You're studying the billionaire. How do they think? How do they do it? Where are they arrogant? Where do they take extra time to cover their tracks? Once you learn what they're doing, the crazy thing about, AI and open source information is you can ask a question, say, go find me every connection, every meeting
Mm.
between X, Y, and Z. And within 30 minutes, I can find a post with CZ and the Witkoffs. Like right
Absolutely.
there, it's on the internet. Like they
Yeah.
share it, they broadcast it. It's there, and you could document these things, and they're verifiable. And that's the thing, is there's such a wealth of information available to the public that a 25-year-old dude in a dark room can find the answers that we're all seeking if we ask the right questions, because they are egotistical and they think
Mm.
that they are above oversight. They think that they are rich and powerful and they can get away with it. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's so much criminal corruption that, under the law, all it takes is a couple, a good 2 years of strong legislation and a functional Congress to redraw the outline for an America that works. A
Yeah.
couple solid amendments to our Constitution is specifically data privacy and our rights as people, what we are entitled to in terms of protection. And you can change all this. This can be changed, and it's about fighting the never narrative. That's a word we use a lot in America. The whole never, it'll never change. That's not true. I don't believe that at all. I believe that for there to be truth and transparency, you need to um, shamelessly state what is going on, and
Yeah.
like that's the difference. That's what you do. And that's what I aspire to do. That's what Dean does. That's what Nick Perro does. Melissa Corrigan, Arturo Dominguez, Walter Ryan. That's what all of these people are doing. Is we are pushing for truth, transparency, and not being afraid to state what reality is, even if it's really uncomfortable.
That's really well said, Shane. I think that you're absolutely right. What we need is a understood common truth, that we understand what really happened. We can't live on these fake narratives that people have churned out for us. We got to figure out what the truth is. We are all doing it in this group of people you've just mentioned, and so many others are out there fighting for the truth. Now, truth is not as sexy as going to war maybe and being a warrior in war, but the work you do and the work that everyone else does on Substack and elsewhere in exposing the truth is the warrior part of doing an information war. We're in an information war. That's how we win it, by exposing the truth. I've always believed that, and the more people doing it, the better off we are. So people should just keep fighting for the truth. We'll figure out how to fix everything once we know what it is.
And for those of you who have not met Zev before, which I'm sure is less of you than who do know Zev well, his Substack, there's a QR code in the top corner here right above his head. You can scan that. That'll take you to his publication. So please go support Zev. He does a lot of good work, and I'm very grateful that you took the time to come chat with me today. It's been great, and you're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'll definitely come back. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'd love to come bug you and Dean on the 5-stack sometime. That'd be fun as well. So
we'll make it happen.
Absolutely. But yeah, man. So just really quick, plug yourself, let them know where they can find you, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, narativ.org. It's spelled funny, narativ.org. You can see it there. And this is, it's been my passion project. I've been looking at the same things you have for like 8 years now, and studying these guys with great amount of focus. The Greatest Heist is what I'm doing right now. The Greatest Heist 1 was the first book that came out. It was all about how Epstein and Trump colluded in the 80s and 90s, and how they became instruments of Russia, really, and other foreign nations to launder money into America and to collapse the capitalist system. All true, by the way. Now, book 3 is which is actually called book 2 because I haven't written the middle part yet. But I'm going to the third one because it's all about Epstein and the collapse of the 2008 economy, and how the bank JP Morgan Chase benefited from it. It all looks at the inside documents that have just been released from the Epstein trials. There's so much great information here. I highly recommend everyone checks out The Greatest Heist, book 2 as it's called, because it'll reveal to you what happened in 2008. And by knowing what happened in 2008, we can stop what's happening right now.
Awesome, man. Thank you for that. I mean, as we all keep going and we keep connecting our communities and growing our voice collectively, I think that being able to connect me and Zev, who like really work on similar lines of questioning, is really special. So thank you guys all for joining us today for this episode. It's been a genuine pleasure. If you want to support both me and Zev, please go and become free subscribers to our Substacks. If you can swing becoming a paid subscriber, it's really helpful in terms of how we're able to continue to do our work, especially in a time when there's not a lot of support for independent journalism from these bigger publications who aren't really interested in working with people like us who want to tell the truth that's unfiltered. So it's a great way to support. But the most important thing you can do, the best way to embody the Firebrand spirit, is take what we all discussed today, take that to the dinner table, take it to the bus station, take it to the library, take it to your book club, and take it with you everywhere you go. And, let's keep trying to change the national dialogue, because like Zev said, it's an information war, and that's how we win. So thank you all so very much for joining us today. Burn bright, resist, and we will see you all later.
Thanks, Shane. Great job. See you later.
Pleasure.